this off. So last time I went in, I saw that the little bits of comb, well not little necessarily, but larger bits of comb which had honey in them, which had been stuck to the roof, I'd cut off, smoking myself, and I cut those off and left them at the top so that they could take out the honey and, you know, hopefully move it into another frame, reuse it, whatever. Just didn't really want it to go to waste. And then they've connected those up to the frames on top, not unexpected, and thankfully because of the foil they can't connect to the roof, so it should just be a relatively easy job of getting a knife underneath the car. And hey Chook, what are you doing down there? Some of these chooks are a bit silly. There we go. So if I open it up this way, should be able to give you a good view of what's going on. Just checking there's no bees in the holes. Oh my. There we go. There are definitely a few bees here. Just going to lay that lid down there. And now we can start removing the excess comb. And I also have a spare aluminium foil with me, just to cover the top, just to make sure that they do not do what they did before I added the second box and just go a bit crazy with all of the extra comb in the roof. But as you can see, they are very well behaved, sort of to be expected given it's such a nice sunny day, very warm, really good bee conditions. Everyone should be happy. All the bees should be happy. And happy bees hopefully make honey, which is what we want. So I've been thinking about the arrangement for the new hive, that being this hive, and also how I'm going to continue expanding multiple hives. So I've got this, as you've seen in other videos, this sort of screen door using as a tabletop bench, which has been working quite well. The only complaints I'd have about this setup is that I can't actually get behind the hive, because obviously the garage is there. That's something which is not ideal, but you know, we can work with. And really what I'm thinking about doing as well, I'm probably just going to only be able to fit one extra hive here, just so that if I was standing where I am, I'd be between the two hives, because I don't really want to be able to squeeze 3. There's the space for 3, but it just wouldn't really be a workable space. Considering I really sort of want to work the hives and get honey, this will probably just be capped at about probably 3 hives in the backyard, which is plenty. The bees are very busy, lots and lots of bees going in and out, which is, you know, excellent to see. This is the first video I think for the new year, which I didn't quite realise, so happy new year to everyone, and we'll see what the new year brings, and hopefully we get some honey in the next month or two, because I go back to the very first video I did, which I believe was a first honey harvest video. I think that was in February, just off the top of my head, so I'm hoping that I can at least get another honey harvest by February again, or you know, potentially earlier the better, but we'll just see. So once I've taken all this excess comb off the top, we're going to be taking a look at a few of these frames at the top, just to see what sort of progress they've made in drawing these out, if any. Well, there certainly should be some, but yeah, we just want to check, because I'm not really wanting to go for a three stack hive or a 3 supers hive, just because from the experience I have had with the other hive, it's really difficult to do those regular sort of brood chamber inspections and checking on the queens when you have 2 extra boxes packed with, you know, full with bees and in some cases honey. It's very, very difficult, very heavy, and also given, as I was saying before, the limitations in the space that I'm currently working in, 3 supers deep here would just be very unwieldy and not easy to work with. So I'm just going to be quiet now just for a little bit. Okay, that's all the bees off for the moment. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to unclip the camera and I'm going to actually try show you some more interesting shots. So we'll see what you guys can see, but I'm hoping that this is sort of coming through and that you may be able to see down through there. But I'm seeing that these probably two furthest to the side, not really drawn out, in the process of being drawn out from really third inwards, and I'd probably say that these are probably first 1, 2, 3, 4. They're probably the ones which are most well drawn out. So I'm just going to clip this back in and we're going to go try pull one of these, a few of these out, not all of them. So what we're going to do first is just have a look here. Now, because this is just a honey super, we know that the queen's not in here. Usually I would never pull out a frame that's not from the edge, because in the brood chamber, if you pull one out in the middle, there's a good chance the queen is probably going to be towards the middle. Also, if you pull one out in the middle, you could jostle the frames on either side and potentially squish bees. That's going to be doing damage to the queen. So I'm just going to grab, but because we know the queen's not here, and I'm going to be quite careful, and also because these frames are drawn out very well, they're not joined together, as you've seen in some other videos that they sometimes can be, it's very low risk to just sort of pull out one of these ones in the middle, and given that I don't really want to go any further than in this particular frame, it should be quite safe from a perspective of the bees. So I'm just going to slowly bring this one out. Okay, so from there, let me just adjust my grip. I'm hoping that you're able to see quite nicely that they're starting to fill these middle frames out here with honey. It's fairly well drawn out, this frame. We're just going to see what's going on the other side. Obviously this inner side is a little bit more active because they do go from the middle outwards, and then from what I can see in the next frame below, that is also quite active. And then I know I did just say I was going to bring one frame out. I'm just going to budge one more along here just so that I can see the inside of this frame. And yes, okay, so there's that one is more full with honey. What I mean by full is that you can see that this bit here, this is really the only area that's being worked on at the moment. Those other frames, it's much larger. There isn't any capped cells yet. So capped cells are pretty much when the bees have decided that, okay, that's the moisture content of the honey, of the nectar has been reduced as much as it will be or can be or needs to be. They will just cap the cells off and say they're done, and then that's what those are the ones that are ready to go. So ideally those are the ones which we want to harvest, because they've got the essentially seal of approval from the bees, and they're also quite easy to harvest generally. So when you're putting the frames back in, you want to make sure that we put them in the same order. So this one here is quite obvious because, or quite good, because it's visually quite obvious which one was the inward facing. So again, just doing this very slowly, and I'm just again very, very happy with this hive because, you know, there are quite a lot of bees in the top here. None of them have tried to sting me or go at me or really be particularly aggressive, and that there are loads coming in and out of the hive. So here now I just want to slowly move these frames in, slowly move the frames back in, and our lessons that we've learnt from the other hive is that we don't really want to have a huge gap along the side here, because then they will use that. Bees will use any space that's given to them, so they might use that. So we just want to be giving them too much space on the side. But they could potentially be trying to do some silly billy things. So now that that's done, I'm just going to put some of the paper across. This is just to deter them from building above and connecting to the lid, as we know is a massive inconvenience. So there we go, just leaving that there. I'm just going to pop the lid back on, and then we're all done. Very, very hot and a bit sweaty in the summer, but the bees were not an issue at all. Very well behaved. Excellent, bees love this colony. So then we're just going to pop the lid back on. Now, I have had some people ask, why do you put the lid on, and what is the purpose of the lid? So there's actually a few reasons. One is just to so that the top of the hive and the sides of the hive just don't get grubby. It's also so that rain and water doesn't go directly on the sides. And in the summertime, probably more importantly, just you can see, yeah, maybe if I move the tripod a bit, you can see that the sides are in shade. So that this might not really be a consideration for some places, but in Australia here we get up to low 40s in Canberra here, and yeah, the bees do like heat, but there is a point where heat becomes a bit of an issue, and they do need to cool down. They do regulate heat within the hive very well themselves. They can bring in moisture from outside and evaporatively cool the internals of the hive, and use the air circulation and whatnot. But just as I'm sure everyone can appreciate, once the temperature just becomes too high, it's just intolerable for most creatures, particularly humans, or at least myself. So I'm just going around the back here, checking that the lid's on all good. Then I'm going to grab all of the wax and stuff which was left up here. I'm going to put this in the bin. I'm going to make sure I don't leave any pieces behind. I'm not really sure how prevalent they are in Australia, but wax moths and other creatures can be drawn to the wax or the smell of the wax, so it's not a good idea to leave these laying around your hives just because they can attract these creatures, and yeah, you don't really want them being attracted anyway. But yes, I might go into some more detail in another video about the different sort of pests and that sort of thing. That's probably a better topic for when we go down into one of the brood chambers, just so we can go through and see what we're looking for in terms of the health of the colony. But it's very hot, and I think that's about as much as I want to cover off today. So yep, okie doke, see you next time.